Hello and welcome to the Quincy Access Television Studios. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you for joining us for Your Health, a program that helps you to stay both informed and, of course, healthy. Joining me today to talk about Parkinson's disease is Caitlin Pico. She is a public health nurse in the city of Quincy. And we should mention, Caitlin, that we know that this program goes beyond the city limits, if you will. It does play out really across the country. We have access centers in California and I believe Wisconsin that play this program. So a lot of good information. Clearly, they think it's good information to get out to their viewers as well. And for that, I commend you.
Yes, the outreach is really expanding, which is awesome. And all of the information I get, I always put my sources. I mostly pull things from the CDC, and in this case, from the Parkinson's Foundation directly. So the information expands to everybody. So.
I guess it's worth mentioning that we are recording this program in April, and this topic obviously is good all year, but the month of April is known for Parkinson's awareness.
Yes, April 11th, I believe, is National Awareness Day for Parkinson's disease. So definitely very important topic to bring and highlight for the QATV.
And beyond.
And beyond, yeah.
So let's look, as we normally do, let's start with the outline so you know what to expect. And of course, I also know what to expect. We will talk about the facts about Parkinson's disease. What is Parkinson's disease? Symptoms. I have those symptoms, so now what? Living with Parkinson's disease. And lastly, we will talk about resources and support. So I guess, Caitlin, I set that up quite well. Let's talk about some facts about Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, so before we get into the definition of Parkinson's, I just thought it was important to cover a few facts that we found on the Parkinson's Foundation. So following Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's is the second most common degenerative nerve disease in the United States. The incidence of Parkinson's increases with age, especially 60 years old and over. In an estimated 4% of diagnosed individuals are diagnosed by the age of 50. And then every 6 minutes, somebody in the United States is diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Every 6 minutes?
Every 6 minutes. And currently, nearly 1 million people in the United States are diagnosed or living with Parkinson's disease. But there could be a larger number because there is a large amount of the community who is undiagnosed.
Folks might know of actor Michael J. Fox, who is suffering from this disease, and he actually got it at a young age.
Yeah, so he was diagnosed at a young age, and the Michael J. Fox Foundation has done incredible amounts of raising money and to support research for the condition. So he's done a lot of amazing work shedding light on this disease.
So let's talk about specifically this disease, and as I had promised, let's talk about the definition.
So the definition of Parkinson's disease, so it is a progressive disease of the central nervous system that creates nerve cell damage in the brain. And this usually is marked by tremor, muscle rigidity, and slow, imprecise movements. And just to go a little further, when you're talking about Parkinson's disease, it's very important to know what the nervous system is within the body. So the nervous system is made up of neurons or nerve cells. And these neurons serve as a communication network within the brain and throughout the body. So basically, where my brain is trying to communicate for my hand to move, it all connects. It is very quick to make those movements. But when there is a breakdown in the neurons, the connection becomes fractured, and these fractured connections result in the hallmark symptoms of Parkinson's disease, which will go into some of the symptoms. And it's important to know that Parkinson's disease predominantly affects the dopamine producing neurons. And dopamine is a chemical in the body that is produced to help these connections move. And basically, if those are low, if your body is not producing dopamine correctly, your levels are low, therefore your body is not moving as it should be as you increase with age and all of that.
So it could be moving, there could be involuntary movements, or there could be delayed movements?
So mostly delayed. Like some people with Parkinson's, say you're sitting in a chair and you want to stand up. Sometimes they find their mind is telling the body, I want to stand up, but it can take several minutes for them to put that connection together.
Okay, so it's a delay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about symptoms, and there are quite a few of those.
Yeah, so some symptoms that that individuals will experience are hand or head tremors.
Which is probably the most obvious to folks when you talk about Parkinson's.
Yes. So that's a very common one. Also, loss of smell.
Which I didn't know about. That's new to me.
Yes. Trouble moving or walking. Again, that's kind of that freezing, where your mind is telling you to move, but you're paused and you don't know why you're paused. You just can't get your body to do the function. They may have stooping or hunched over in posture. You could have constipation, difficulty finding words when you're speaking, a soft or low voice, and also trouble sleeping is also very common. And it's important to know that not all of these conditions are gonna be there. Like, you're not gonna have every single symptom. One thing I learned in my research for Parkinson's disease is that each individual diagnosed, they experience it a little bit differently. So it's not a one side, like there's no we'll get into it, but there is no cure at the moment. But how an individual manages their Parkinson's disease depends on that individual.
Right, because there is no cure, so it's really about management.
Yes, just management to have the best quality of life you can.
Interesting. I had mentioned to you and to the folks at home that I didn't realize loss of smell was a symptom. I didn't realize a soft or low voice is also a symptom.
Yes, so there are a couple, and again, it doesn't apply to all, but it's just amazing to see how the body reacts to these low levels of dopamine.
Okay, so if someone has a symptom or these symptoms or variations of these symptoms, what's next?
Yes, so my coworker Deb actually had just done a presentation on this, and she said it's always when you're hearing the symptoms, you're always like, oh God, I have those symptoms. Now what do I do? So it's important not to panic. Many of these symptoms can also be caused by other diagnoses or medications you may be on. For example, loss of smell. We all remember COVID-19, of course. It's still lingering. So that's something that you could have a loss of smell, but it could be due to a different reason. Also with constipation, it could be a dietary issue for yourself. And then the stooped, hunched posture, it could be due to arthritis. So basically what you want to do, if you have any of the listed symptoms for Parkinson's disease, especially if they're severe, consult with your primary care doctor, and they will do the necessary steps to rule out other conditions to determine if they believe you do have a Parkinson's diagnosis.
And I know we've talked about this in previous shows. It's okay to go on to the computer and Google something, search for something, if it helps you to better describe to your primary care what you're feeling, but you shouldn't self-diagnose.
Yes, never self-diagnose. It is okay to look. I always say if you're researching a medical condition, make sure you're looking at a .org site. So look for those foundation sites. You don't want to be on Wikipedia where anybody can write something in there. You just want to make sure you're getting the best source of knowledge. And with Parkinson's disease, there is a lot of great resources out there that I'll get into later. That could be a great source for individuals who are experiencing this.
Very good. Let's talk now about living with Parkinson's.
Yes, so as we had mentioned, there is no cure. So all of the treatments that are available go towards managing the symptoms to have the best quality of life you can, of course. So some of these treatments could include medications, lifestyle changes, and even there is a surgical option as well. And just where it is so individualized, I didn't get into exact medications or exact surgeries, but I just did a brief overview. So for medications, since most of Parkinson's symptoms are caused by that lack of dopamine, most of the medications that would be prescribed are used to temporarily replenish the dopamine levels or mimic the action of dopamine. And of course, that choice of medication depends on the symptoms you may have, your existing health conditions, and your age. So definitely consult with your doctor to see what works best for you. And they are also still, the research for Parkinson's disease is ongoing. So there are new clinical trials. They're still trying to find a cure, of course. So definitely stay in touch with your doctor because they should be monitoring what the current research to see what would work best for you as a patient. And then for lifestyle changes, one of the most important ones, and I always mention this in the majority of these shows, is exercise. Exercise is vital to all humans, of course. It's very important for your overall health. But with Parkinson's disease specifically, there are certain exercises that are very important to maintain your balance, mobility, and activity to improve your daily activities, basically. So some exercises, they say, as aerobic activity, strength training, balance, agility, and multitasking, and flexibility. So you definitely, again, consult with a physician before you start implementing any of these exercises. But a lot of times they could refer you to, whether it's even a gym, a lot of trainers could help work with you to make sure you're doing the best and safest exercise for yourself.
Yeah, one shouldn't really think about, when we mention exercise, go out and run a marathon. That's not what it's about.
Yes, so that's always a favorite topic as well. So exercise isn't running a marathon. It could be incorporating a 10-minute walk after meals, or even if you had 2-pound weights and if you're sitting in your chair watching television, you can use your weights. I always just say consult with a professional before implementing, because you just don't want to hurt yourself in any exercise.
Absolutely. Let's talk about maintaining healthy dopamine levels.
Yes. So to maintain these dopamine levels, you can look at your nutrition. So foods that are high in L-tyrosine, which is a protein that makes dopamine. So for example, some foods you can include in your diet are avocados, bananas, beef, chicken, eggs, and turmeric. And then there are also vitamins that could be very essential, including vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3. You could get these over the counter, or you could get these through your nutrition. But again, I love saying this, but consult with your doctor. You just want to make sure that anything you're adding, if you're adding over-the-counter vitamins, you just want to make sure there's no interference with the current medications you're prescribed. If you can't get in touch with your doctor regarding that, you can always consult with a pharmacist as well, because they are very well educated on different interactions with medications. And then not one other thing to maintain those dopamine levels, it's not simply just exercise, but it's also anything that makes you happy. So if it makes you happy to see your neighbor's dog or whatever, see your grandchildren, whatever it might be, dopamine is kind of like a risk and reward. So when you're happy, it spikes your dopamine levels. So it doesn't always mean you have to go for that walk. You might just be able to see the dog next door and be with them for 10 minutes. It could help boost those levels and reduce symptoms.
So it's really a natural release based on an activity.
Yes. And that's why people always say, like with exercise, people that go to the gym every day, they say their dopamine levels are high because they are excreting it through exercise. But it definitely helps alter your mindset and make you a little happier. So definitely, it's not just that exercise, but it's also just anything that makes you yourself happy.
Let's now turn to living with a chronic and progressive disease like Parkinson's, what that means for an individual.
Yeah, so where it is chronic and progressive, it's no small feat. It's definitely a lot of individuals that have chronic illness. It can help, it can lead to depression because it is a lot. You can't walk and move as you once were able to.
So it's frustrating for the person that's suffering from this.
Yeah, so it's very frustrating. It's whenever you're losing your independence, and let me say, not everybody with Parkinson's disease, it doesn't mean you're going to completely lose your independence. Again, it's really working to find the individual plan that works best for you. Even with things that make you happy, it's going to be different for everybody. So that's why it is so individualized.
And I suppose where it's progressive, everyone progresses, I would assume, at a different rate.
Yeah, so it all depends on when you're diagnosed, how far you progress into the disease, of course. It's important to know, because sometimes if you are diagnosed and you go to the website and you look at everything that can happen to you, it's very overwhelming. So I just wanted to mention this just to say, work with your care team. You can work with a mental health consultant as well. Because it affects every aspect of your life. So even those around you, your family, your friends, your caregivers, you want to make sure that you're getting the support you need to help manage this condition overall. Because it's not as simple as taking a medication. It's many different aspects of your life change. Resources and support. I wanted to highlight, again, I know I've mentioned the Parkinson's Foundation. Their website was incredible. And it also had links in there that you could put in your zip code to find support groups near you. In my research, I also found, so it was the Parkinson's Foundation, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. It had great information there. As I say, those sites are legit and they're updated and they're monitored by professionals to make sure it is the most accurate information. I also, within my research, I love listening to podcasts. You can stream those on your phone. It's kind of like listening to talk radio. But during my research for Parkinson's disease, I found multiple different podcasts that have, whether it's individuals with Parkinson's disease, they bring on specialists, and they talk about a wide variety of aspects of Parkinson's disease. So if you are diagnosed yourself or if a loved one has Parkinson's disease, I really thought those were great resources just to kind of see how other people are living their daily life and how they're coping. So it is also another great resource for people.
Well, I loved how you said just moments ago that if you're caring for a loved one or a loved one of yours does have Parkinson's, then it would really benefit you to really find out about it either via a podcast or via a program such as this.
Absolutely. Because anytime you are dealing with a chronic illness, yes, it's a lot on yourself, but your caregivers, your partner, your loved ones, they also deal with a lot of stress with trying to help understand, trying to find the best way to help cope and help you through the experience. So with Parkinson's disease, as we said, over 1 million people in the United States have this. So just really make sure you're educating yourself and you are reaching out for support, because there is support out there. Just know you're not in it alone.
And I suppose from the initial case or the initial cases, already through research, a lot is being done for folks that have that disease now.
Yes, and they're really, as I said, research is ongoing, so they're still trying to look for a cure. They're still finding different treatments and different options to help people live their best life. Because as with Parkinson's disease, it is so individualized that it's been ongoing, but hopefully in the future there will eventually be a cure.
And often it's brought to the attention of folks if they know of, if they're experiencing the disease or a loved one is experiencing the disease. Certainly it's brought to their attention. It's right in their orbit at that point. But also, like we said, Michael J. Fox, a well-known actor, with him receiving that diagnosis, that in turn made for multiple, I suppose, greater exposure on TV.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime you can shed light on an important condition, because he really took that. He could have just taken his diagnosis and then just went off, stopped, but instead he promoted and he moved forward, and since then he's raised tons of money to help support research and further help people that are suffering with Parkinson's disease.
Because as you had mentioned as well, if one has the disease or is close to someone who has the disease, it's very easy for that person or maybe that person and the person who's caring for that person fall into depression.
Yeah, and it's because it's not easy. You can't, a lot of these symptoms, they do influence your everyday life. Even with the tremors in your hands, it's not as easy to sign your signature. It's not as easy to brush your teeth. So
these are things that most of us, let's say, who don't have this disease almost really take for granted.
Yes, yes. And it's tough because everybody, in life, you want your independence. You want to be able to take care of yourself. So it's a struggle if you cannot. But it's just I find it very important with Parkinson's disease is reach out for that support, find the best options for you, and even just continue to monitor the research, because you never know, something could come out in the next 2 months that could help you. So really just stay up to date with the information and make sure you're doing the best for yourself and not just taking it on being like it is what it is. There are plenty of different treatments.
And also, again, consult your physician if you're experiencing anything that seems out of place or abnormal, not something that you're used to experiencing.
Yes.
Because it could be Parkinson's, it could be something else.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming in, naturally, to talk about this particular disease, and naturally welcome you back to talk further about another health issue, another health concern in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you at home for watching. Please continue to support your local access television station in the town or the city in which you reside. Thank you.